Hey guys, and welcome back to our YouTube channel, Mastering the Wedding Photography Biz.
I'm Hunter.
And I'm Sarah.
And today we are going to share a few tips on how you can turn your surprise proposal or engagement session couples into raving fans who are not only open to hearing about your wedding photography services, but are actually eager to hear more about them.
So if you photograph lots of surprise proposals or standalone engagement sessions, but want more wedding clients, today's video is specifically for you.
So the first step to turning surprise proposal or engagement session couples into wedding clients more frequently is taking a good hard look at the experience you give your couples during your time together and the images that you are producing.
This may sound obvious, but if your proposal or engagement couples aren't having a good time with you, connecting personally with you, and absolutely loving the final images that they get, nothing else is really going to matter when it comes to converting them into wedding couples more frequently.
So the first question you need to ask is, are your couples having a good time with you? And so a lot of this actually depends on the way you guide them during their session. If they feel really stiff and awkward and uncomfortable and you're fumbling to figure out the next pose or leaving them in complete silence for minutes at a time, they're probably not going to have as good of a time as if you kept the thing light and fun and they felt like, you were joking around and having a good time with them.
The good news, like we talked about in our video, Fighting Imposter Syndrome as a New Photographer, which you can check out here if you're interested, is that comfortability with your clients, with setting your settings, and with posing truly does come with time. And the more that you get out and shoot, it really is practice makes perfect.
The next question you need to ask yourself that's going to really increase your chances of converting more couples into wedding couples is, are you connecting with your clients on a personal level? And so this means asking them lots of questions, getting to know them and their story, and also relating with them about their story whenever possible as you're capturing their session or interacting with them before or during the session itself.
And guys, if you're still relatively new to photography and, setting your settings or posing your couples is still taking up 100% of your brain space during a session, that's okay. Use moments between shots as you walk from one part of the location to another to just really try and connect with them, or even just stand around and chat with them for a little while after the session itself. What we don't want is for you to just put so much pressure on yourself that you clam up and don't talk to them at all.
As time goes on, posing, setting your settings, these things really do become second nature. We barely think about them anymore at this point. And so you'll be able, rather to, be thinking about those things, you can be thinking about, what intentional question am I gonna ask them next? Or how can I thoughtfully respond to, the answer that they just gave me? And things like your ISO and your aperture aren't even really gonna register in your conscious thought.
And finally, it's about delivering a high quality product. We are big fans of the old business adage, under promise but over deliver. So if you sell a 60-minute section, give them 70 minutes. If you tell them they'll get 75 edited images, give them 100. Recommend locations, help plan their proposal, show up 10 minutes early, and maybe make outfit suggestions. Do whatever you can to exceed expectations.
And if you can do those three things while you're actually photographing a surprise proposal or an engagement session, then you are already setting yourself up for your clients to be thrilled about you as a photographer.
However, being the best proposal or engagement photographer in the world won't help you if your couple has no idea that you photograph weddings. So the next step to converting more surprise proposal and engagement session couples into wedding clients is dropping hints that you shoot weddings throughout the process.
And so when someone first inquires on our website about either a surprise proposal or a standalone engagement session, we specifically mention something like, oh, hey, even though we're primarily wedding photographers, we do leave some room in our calendar to photograph a handful of surprise proposals each year. Or we do leave time in our calendar every fall to do a handful of engagement sessions with non-wedding couples each year. Something like that to make it really obvious that, hey, we will shoot it, but mostly weddings is what we do.
Yeah, and right away that establishes you as an in-demand wedding photographer, but this also lets the client know that, we'd still love to shoot their proposal or their engagement session, whether we're gonna be their wedding photographer or not.
Now, sometimes a client will let us know right away that the whole reason they want to hire us for just an engagement session is because, they're getting married on the other side of the country or internationally, and they just didn't want to have to pay the wedding photographer they hired in that location to fly to them. And so obviously, if that's the case, we're not going to try to sell them on a wedding photography experience because they already have a wedding photographer, and we're just going to focus on giving them a good engagement session and sort of moving on with our lives.
But other couples may be hiring us for their engagement session because they want to announce their engagement or save the dates out ASAP, but they haven't even started, looking out a wedding venue, which they probably will if they have a save the date.
Maybe.
But or they maybe haven't even begun their photographer search, and of course, any surprise proposal we shoot will be with a couple who hasn't started wedding planning yet. They're not engaged yet. These couples are exactly who we want to be booking us for sessions.
And so when we do finally meet one of these couples that we are pretty sure doesn't have a photographer, or maybe we're not sure, when we finally do meet them on the day of the engagement session, one of the things that we're going to do is, strike up a conversation about wedding planning. And so even just something as simple as, asking them halfway through the session, once we've started to get to know them, hey, by the way, guys, how's wedding planning coming along? It's a really easy way to get that conversation going in a natural way. And they will probably mention at that point whether or not they've hired a photographer, but you don't have to be like, hey, do you have a photographer yet?
If we learn that they have not booked a photographer yet, which usually people will tell you, even if it's because they just haven't even started wedding planning or found a venue, we make sure to tell a funny story or something related to their wedding planning experience that also just happens to showcase some of our experience as wedding photographers. And for proposal couples, we'll make sure to slip our wedding experience into the conversation at some point before we say goodbye.
Now, if we've taken the time to mention that we photograph weddings in both our email communication and then again in person, there's no way that they don't have in the back of their heads by the end of the session, wow, man, if these photos turn out well, maybe we could talk to Hunter and Sarah about also photographing our wedding day, which ultimately that's the goal of these first two sections.
And finally, we take the initiative and give a call to action. This is the most important part and the one that photographers often forget about, maybe because, they don't issue a call to action because they thought it was assumed, like, oh, they know I'm a wedding photographer. Or maybe they just don't do it because they don't want to seem too salesy or too pushy, but you are the only true advocate for your business, and so you need to be the one to advocate for more jobs for yourself.
And so when we deliver a gallery to a couple who we photographed the surprise proposal of, we might say something like, hey, we know this engagement is still incredibly new and you probably have barely thought about wedding planning, which is good. Enjoy your engagement for a little while. But when you do get around to wedding planning, we would be honored if you guys reach back out to us. Maybe we even follow up after a little while and check in on them.
And in the early days of our business, before we had to limit the number of weddings that we could take each year, we would also offer some kind of incentive, like $1,000 off a wedding package if they met with us within 90 days of their proposal.
And when we deliver an engagement session gallery, if we sort of sussed out during the engagement session that we're pretty sure they haven't started wedding planning at all, we might send something similar, sort of they're basically in the same spot as that, newly engaged couple. But if we sort of figured out that we're pretty sure they have a venue and a date but no photographer, we're going to phrase that call a little bit differently and give them a different call to action, which might be something like, hey, now that you guys have got the engagement photos and we hope you love them, why don't we, get together over video chat and talk more about wedding photography? We'll be a little bit more direct, try to get them into that client consultation call with us.
Oftentimes, a couple who loved their engagement session with us and who has a wedding date but no photographer might not have even considered us because they assumed we wouldn't travel for their wedding, which is maybe in another state or in another country.
And so if we know that that's the case, that they're getting married, in another state or another country, we make sure that we mention during the engagement session itself as well as later on, we talk about some of our experience shooting weddings all over the US or even internationally. And in that final email, we might say something even more explicitly like, hey, you had mentioned that, you're getting married in California next summer. We would love to, take a trip to California. And so we'd be happy to, cover the travel out of our own pocket or something like that that's going to really incentivize them. Now, of course, refer back to our pricing workshop. We may then build that travel into their actual, fee, all those good stuff. But something like that could just get them into that consultation call.
By the way, if you've been listening to this and think that changing just a few of these things could help you book more wedding clients, then we have some great news.
So just a few days ago, earlier this week, we hosted a 2.5-hour workshop that was all about marketing tactics that can help you book more portrait sessions and wedding photography jobs. And half of those methods, just like this one, don't require you to spend a single dollar. You just make tweaks to things you're already doing or just put some time and effort and creativity and you can drum up more jobs.
So whether you want to pursue some bootstrapping marketing methods like social media, network marketing, or native SEO, or if you have a budget to spend on pay-per-lead sites like Thumbtack or affiliate sites like The Knot, but you're just not sure if they're worth it, our workshop, How to Get More Photography Clients, a simple guide to free and paid marketing and advertising, could be the key to booking more jobs and taking your business to the next level.
And even though you missed the actual live workshop, the replay with all of that same information is on sale on our website, and you can learn more by either clicking the link in our description or by visiting hunterandsarah.com/education.
But that's it for this week.
Guys, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment if you have any questions, and so you'll be the first to know when we drop new education content each week.
See you next time. And I'm Sarah.
Sorry, I missed you.